Welcome to our December 2021 technical training meeting. Let me put the agenda on the screen here, maybe. If I can. There it is. So I apologize, I was vague on the topic, or I didn't let anybody know what the topic was. I was hoping to have a few other things finished, so it was because I wasn't ready to narrow it down. But basically today we have a kind of a potpourri of things. We got a handful of questions and issues that have been on our radar, and we just wanted to spend a little time and talk about each of them. So you can see the list of things we will be talking about on the agenda here today. I won't read through them up front. We'll just kind of step through each one of them and as the meeting goes on. So hopefully each of you will find something valuable. And really, it's a lot of these topics are items where we'd really love to get some feedback from the network. So some of these things will be discussion points where if you've got some feedback, we want you to speak up and let us know what you're dealing with. So as a reminder, I am recording the meeting so that those who may not be able to attend can watch it later. But let's go ahead and jump into it. So we always start out with training opportunities. I've got a couple listed there. The first one is just lead inspector training. I like to keep this on everybody's radar this time of year because if you need it, then you need to kind of plan ahead, because the one company that offers it, they don't bother to post the schedule until right around the end of December, first part of January. And they typically offer that right in the middle of February. So if you need the lead inspector class or a lead inspector refresher, then basically keep your schedule open in the middle of February and make yourself a reminder to check in on the on their website, like right around the end of this month and first part of January. Let me see if I can. This is their URL at the top of my screen. It's kind of a long one, so I won't try to repeat it, but as of right now, they don't have any lead inspection classes listed. So you'll just need to check in on your own. It's for those of you who are on the auditor in training track, this URL is listed on your auditor in training application. So if you don't get it written down now, you should have that. Any questions or concerns about lead training, or any comments there? You got one, or just stretching? Kurt's back here raising his hand. So, all right. The next item is just wanted to put this on your radar. I think there's going to be a few other of these that'll come up, but it looks like there's a scheduled National Home Performance Conference in Nashville in April. With COVID and things like that, that kind of stuff can change. But if that's something that you're looking for, if you need to sharpen some of your skills, or if you're looking for an opportunity for some CEUs, then you may want to put that on your calendar, talk to your coordinator.
Right now, they haven't opened registration or anything, but that's what's on the calendar.
That's just their date. But, and
they are marching towards an in-person. That's their goal.
Yeah.
I don't really want that.
And that one, I put this on here because this is a conference that it's worthwhile. Like, you know, you don't need to go to every one of these or anything, but if you are looking for a good opportunity to get some good training on weatherization at the national level, that's a good one. We'll tell you about the others as they come along. So, any other training opportunities that you guys are aware of that this group should know about? And if you ever do become aware of them, pass them along and we can share them here. So, all right, so let's jump into the topics. The first topic I wanted to talk about is about CEUs. So we have changed the frequency of this meeting to, instead of doing it every month, it's going to be every other month. So what that means is that if you attend all of these meetings during that 3-year period between your recertification dates for BPI, for your energy auditor and your QCI, you will not get enough CEUs just from attending this meeting. I just want to make sure everybody's aware that you do need to be looking for a few other opportunities out there to complete your CEUs. And then on CEUs, why do you want CEUs? If you'll earn your CEUs during that period, then you don't have to take the written tests. So you can kind of pick your poison. It's, you know, the CEUs are great because you keep up to speed on what's going on in the network. I feel like that's like the best thing that you could be doing, but it's not the end of the world if you don't get all of them. You would have to take your written tests when you come up to recertify. BPI did change it a little while ago to where you only need 24 CEUs instead of, I think they had 36 before. So that's a little nicer, a little more doable. But be aware, if you hold the QCI certification, they do require that 6 of those 24 CEUs are like core QCI trainings. I do not know how well they are identifying core QCI trainings. I think you can like self-report some of those things, but they'll look at the topic and make sure that they actually do. They were really right. How do you say that? Basically, they're more focused on QCI than other things. So just be aware of that. Take an opportunity every once in a while, check in on your CEUs, make sure you're, you know, collecting all the information, make sure you're getting the credit for the classes that you go to. Anything else on CEUs? Anybody have any questions on CEUs? Oh, I had one other thing. Be aware when you are self-reporting CEUs, please be accurate. They give you a list of different, you have to like select a category that your training fell into. And sometimes the trainings that you take don't always get a 1-to-1 ratio. You don't always get 1 hour of credit for the 1 hour class. Sometimes you only get half of a credit for a 1 hour class, depending on the content. But make sure that, I want to make sure that the folks from Utah are accurately reporting our CEUs, at least the self-reported ones, to BPI. So be careful on that. All right, with that, I wanted to let Dalton just talk a little bit about just what's going on with our BPI recertification stuff up here at the training center.
Yep. So a few of you have probably seen some emails come through recently of being invited to a recertification class. And we went through everybody that's their certification is going to be expiring in 2022. I've already scheduled out the classes. We're not going to allow anybody to extend their certification, how BPI is going to put out these extensions. We're just going to keep everybody on track where they're at so we don't get a big pile of people showing up all at once needing to be recertified. The first one, recertification class, will be in February on the 16th and 17th. And we've got Jake, Brenna, and Mark are in that class. So just be aware of that. I am reaching out to BPI because they kind of have a little bit of conflicting information on their website, whether if your certification expires after February 22nd, if you have to submit a renewal application or not. So when I hear back from them on that, I'll reach out to you guys if you need to submit a renewal application or not for that class. But does anybody have questions on recertification? Or is there anybody out there that didn't get an email that your certification will be expiring here in 2022?
Hey, Matt,
Yes.
do you have a schedule posted somewhere of all the ones coming up for 2022? Who's going when?
I don't know. Did we put a list together? We put them all on our training center calendar, but there's not like a condensed list. At least I don't have one that I can pull up right now. Maybe we could
probably throw one together.
Maybe we could send one out after this meeting. That's not a bad idea. But
Since Scott asked, and I said,
yeah.
Just curious.
And then,
I have to go back and find the email somewhere.
it's a good way to do it. And then if you notice that you're not on there,
Well, then you're gonna go find the email with the schedule on it, so what are you talking about? Yeah, that's a lame excuse.
yeah, if you do, we'll send that out. And if you notice that you're not on there, reach out to us. But that also means that your information on your WAP reports may not be up to date about your certifications. That's where, make sure whoever is keeping track of the certification info at your agency, make sure you're keeping that stuff up to date, because that's where we're pulling the data from. But yeah, thank you for that comment. Any other questions on that one? So yeah, we're trying to stay in front of that so that you guys can plan ahead and know that your certifications will be up to date. So awesome. The next one, some of you, I think a lot of you probably already know this, but we wanted to make sure that the whole network knew about it, and also just talk about it again, that Brad worked on a project with a couple of other programs, and they were able to put together some really good content that could be very helpful to some of your customers or your clients. So Brad, you want to take a minute and just tell us a little bit about this? And
Well, yeah, so I did email out, mostly the coordinators and take stuff like that, the videos we put together, which there's several in there that if you take advantage of that, you can use them to help alleviate some of the burden of your no heat calls. Like I said, it walks them through changing out their filter and power cycle in the furnace. It walks them through changing the batteries, and you know, your typical thermostat, things like that. They're a very concise video. But one of the things that we wanted to do was, because where they were located and how do you convey that to the client, the best we could get out of DWS was the jobs.utah.gov/energy. I wanted the absolute shortest address possible, and you know, that's what I got out of them. But that idea of trying to direct the client, some of you may know some of your clients, especially no heat, for whatever strange reasons, they decide to call the state first. And I've actually been trying to even talk the client over to that video and explain to them, you know, if you do these things first, it might save you a call and get the heat back on. One of the things I'm kind of curious, is anybody taking advantage of trying to utilize these videos, or did you watch them once and say, oh, that's neat, and haven't done nothing with them since?
good experiences with the videos?
I watched them, and actually, they're good to show to your weatherization workers too, so they can help explain things to the clients.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
I checked one video, had about 150 hits so far, so a few people have watched them. But anybody else had any experiences with them? And this was kind of one of our concerns. That's why we wanted to talk about it again. Like, these really are very good videos, and I'm saying that because I was not involved with them, and I watched them, and I feel like I learned a lot. There was really good content in them. If you have not seen them, please take the time to watch some of them so that you know what is in there. And then the other thing to be aware of is, so we've tried to find a URL that's simple, but these are all YouTube videos. So as you watch them, if this is content that you would like on your websites, please put it there. Please put links to it on your websites. If that's the easiest way to get your clients to this content, like, find a way so that you can quickly refer people to it if it's helpful to them. But I really do think there's a lot of stuff that could help a lot of your clients. If this is something that we need to add to our client packets, that would, you know, something that would help direct them to either your website or to this, we don't really care how many hits there are. We put in the effort on putting this stuff together, and we think it's going to be valuable, and we just want to make sure you guys are thinking about how to make it easy for your clients to get this information. So
One of the things it's going to make easy for your clients is it's going to force you to have to change your procedure. you are going to have to go back and look at how you are interacting with that client on the initial contact for no heat. You're going to have to go back and take a look at how you're interacting with that client throughout the weatherization process. This is technology, so you're going to have to look at another way. Instead of just handing them one more piece of paper and getting them to sign it so that you can get out of the home a little bit quicker, you're going to either need to figure out a way to get an email or a phone number that you can text to, like Matt pointed out. Again, they're YouTube videos. You see in the upper right corner of every one of those videos is the share feature. You can copy the link. There's about 10 different ways you can send a YouTube video to an individual. One of the nice things too, YouTube added a little while back on the share feature, there is a way to share it at a specific, and the video will start at a specific minute hack or time hack. If there was something in the changing furnace filter video that you're talking to a client about power cycling the furnace, power cycling the furnace, you could jump to that part of the video where the lady turns the furnace switch off and turns it back on and everything, and say share from, and there's a little box that pops up and you check it, shared at the 115 point or whatever. But these are things that you're going to need to start looking at doing. You know, like I said, most of the clients nowadays, even our elderly clients, they have email, they have phones that take text messages. And so look at how you can adapt that process. But that idea of, you know, sending out, whether it's in-house staff or a contractor, paying them for a service call to simply go change batteries in a thermostat, to go replace a furnace filter and then power cycle the furnace, is not the best use of our funds. This is an opportunity to save a few bucks, get the heat back on the client so that you can send that person to where you really need to do some work. So I would strongly encourage you to start looking at how to better utilize these videos to as a filtering screening process in the no heat process. And as Matt pointed out too, some of the ones about replacing furnaces and things, integrating that into your client ed for the weatherization.
Any comments or questions on that? I'll be asking again, and I'd love to hear some of your experiences with this. Our hope is that you'll get some of those calls and you'll be able to just direct your clients here, and that'll help solve their problems. But anyway, so we'd love to hear from you as you guys experience some of that. All right. So the next one is a question from the field, and Scott Bolander submitted a suggestion for a training opportunity, but I have nothing. I don't have an answer to this question, so I wanted to put it to you guys. So here's the question. And Scott, sorry I didn't tell you beforehand that I was just going to ask the group your question.
Hey, Scott, Matt's going to ask your question in the technical meeting today, okay?
Yeah, them tire tracks on my back are just, they've been there a while.
So, but it's
well, but they're
really
not
good.
studded tires, so it shouldn't hurt too much.
Yeah, not yet. We haven't had any snow yet. So here's the question: with the frequent increases in building materials, what is the correct way to keep up on changing the cost of materials / inventory items on both the audit program and any other job costing methods that people may use? So very legitimate question. I don't have an answer. What do you guys think out there? What have you guys been doing to deal with this?
So here at UCA, we recently updated the item costs, the individual item costs in our NEAT database, which is giving us a much more accurate representation of what a job is going to cost up front. But I think some of it depends on the way that you're accounting for your materials. So if you're using an average cost versus a last in, last out, if you're maintaining an inventory, I mean, some of those have to be considered when making updates to your costs.
Thank you for that. Questions on that comment or other comments? And Bolander, have you got any thoughts on this, or have you been trying anything to deal with it? And you've been having any experience or success or failure there?
Well, we have an inventory program that we can update the costs, but doing the need audit costs, you know, then you get different costs in your inventory program than you have on the need audit. So we're kind of like running two different programs, and it's kind of a pain because for the need audit, if you go in and update all your costs, you have to put the whole new, you can't just do one at a time, right? You have to put the whole new database and up it on that list you have, that rename it and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, it's cumbersome, to say the
Yeah.
least.
So if you only get like one or two, and you need to do one or two every month, you'll actually be putting a new database on your need audit every month, and that's not really a good thing.
So one of the things that we're kind of looking at doing is in need, instead of having the item library just on the work orders using an average cost and pulling that average cost from our actual cost out of our inventory management system. So it's just one of the ways we're looking, since the items are so volatile right now, maybe evaluating alternative methods for determining the cost of the audit up front without having to update the entire library. I don't know if that's something that might work for you right now, but.
Yeah.
I have a question. So are you saying that when you're running your BWRs or when you're doing your client completion in the background or at the end, that it's showing that your materials cost more than was called out, like significantly more than was called out on your work order?
That was happening for us, yes.
Yeah, if you don't update it if you update your inventory costs on your inventory and you do your job costs off your inventory, and you don't update it in the need audit because you don't want to create a whole new database and all that, then your need audit's actually going to be lower and your job costs are going to be higher.
Right. So one of the things that we've been doing is when we find that item, like when we're closing out and we're running across those, we try to address those measures specifically. But then as far as when we put new material in our inventory system, we're doing a weighted average. And then we're just watching the percentage that's increasing. It seems like it's got to change that number by about 20%. Anywhere from 20 to 40% before it's throwing off of our need audit numbers. So we're just keeping an eye on it there, if that helps.
So what I'm hearing is that you guys have been increasing the frequency that you're looking at this stuff and making updates on I guess, little shorter periods than we're used to doing.
Yeah, so we used to not address our setup library except for once a year, but where materials have been changing, or twice a year, but where materials have been changing so much, when we're entering new inventory items and we're running that new weighted average, if it's a significant increase on several pieces of one measure, then we're looking at it at that time rather than just, every 6 months. And then when I close out those BWRs, if I run across one that's significantly higher, that's going to cause us an SIR problem, then we go back and look at, what changed in it so that we can address it then. But since we've switched, so we used to do first in, first out. And then as we reviewed some things and looked at things, and with everything changing so much, we actually have switched. And since we've been doing a weighted average cost of inventory, things aren't getting thrown as bad.
Gotcha. So the weighted average is helping.
Yes.
And then just looking at this stuff on a pretty regular basis. If there's any coordinators or any programs out there that are haven't been thinking about this, please take a look at this, because I think you'll start to notice when you're doing your job cost by measures report at the end, you're going to find that you're going to have a bunch of measures that no longer paid back. And we do have a little flexibility where, you know, if it didn't pay back, then as long as you make sure to pay for it under LIHEAP, then you're at least on a little more solid ground. But then we've run into the issue of not being able to spend all of our DOE money. So if we don't stay on top of this, as cumbersome as it is, it could run into some serious problems.
And I haven't seen the filings yet, but Dominion and Rocky Mountain Power, my understanding, as you can imagine, are going to be raising their rates this year, but I have not seen anything. We may want to consider that instead of waiting to July. Once they do raise it, we could go through and do the fuel analysis survey, fuel survey. And, but, yeah, I don't even know if they filed yet. Typically, Dominion should have filed by now. And then they usually have their rate case hearings, everything ready to go sometime in January. But I don't know. And that, another thing to keep on the radar coordinators, because Dominion's tariff may be held up, because anytime they'll go for a rate hike, there's going to be a lot more engagement from the community on that rate hike. That could drag the Dominion contract, because we can't move on the contract until the tariff's executed and everything. So just keep that in mind. Because like I said, I haven't seen anything on the tariff filing yet. So.
Great question. I appreciate you bringing that up, and thank you for your comments. As you guys move forward, if you do find ways that are helping to solve this problem, please share them with us, or share them with other coordinators and stuff, so that you know, we can all learn from one another. Any other comments on this one before we move on? All right. I had a handful of just issues that we have been seeing popping up on BWR. So we split up the BWRs between Brad and Dalton and I each month, and each of us kind of looks at them. You probably noticed you're getting different questions from each of us at different times during the month, and some of us may ask the same question twice. But anyway, I wanted to cover just a couple of the most common ones that have been coming up over the last little bit. I think most of you, if you've done this, you got the question from us and you're already aware of the answer, but I just wanted to share with the rest of the group to do a little bit of training on this. So, well, I put all of these on top of our BWR training, or our BWR guide. So let me switch to that really quickly. I think I've got it up here somewhere. And on that note, I wanted to make sure that everybody in the program was aware that on our resources page, we do have a BWR completion guide. So if you've seen that and wondered where the heck it went, it is on the resources page. We may need to do a little update on it. It hasn't been updated for a little while. I know there's a couple of new things, but I just wanted to cover a few of them, and then if you have other questions on some stuff, we probably have a few minutes we can talk about them. So first and foremost was this is not on the completion guide. I added this heat application case number is new to the BWR. And Brad has given the program guidance, and I have to apologize to a couple of you because I told you to do the opposite of what Brad told you to do, and I was wrong. And so I want to correct that now. What Brad asked you to do is you need to put the most current heat application number in that box. I thought it was supposed to be the heat application that was at the time when they were eligible, but that is not correct. You want to put the most current heat application number in that box. And the reason for that is that it allows us to issue that rebate that we're giving clients for weatherizing their homes. So all of our clients that we weatherize their homes, as long as they're still current heat qualified clients, we can issue them a little rebate for when we were there, running the blower door and wasting their energy.
So that's a $50 credit that comes from the heat program for any client we weatherize that actually still is currently qualified. And so that's why I need the most recent heat certificate number on there. It makes it easier to find them and make that determination so that we can get them in the queue for that. So that's why we want the most recent one on there. And it's still your responsibility, and that's what the client files for, to prove that the client was income qualified the entire time they were on the waiting list. And a question that came up again the other day with Jesse Wade up in Bragg is, once work has started on that home, you don't have to maintain client qualification. They had the perfect example of a client that got on the deferral list because of some water leaking issues and things, and it took them over a year, right, Jesse? On deferral?
That is correct.
Yeah, so over a year on deferral, but the water problem was solved, and they reconnected with Bragg's team, and they got in there and got the job across the line. And because Jesse hadn't had one of those in so long or forever, and he was like, I just want to make sure I'm not in trouble here, because we don't have proof of income. There were some dynamics that changed in the household, and once that job has been started, you're good to go. Where we probably need to talk a little bit is if they end up in deferral before any physical work started, we may want to visit a little bit if it's only been the audit that's done, if it gets too drug out. But it does happen. I think the record goes to Tri-County Weatherization. They had a person that was on deferral for 3 years, Dalton? That house over here in Ogden that had no floor or stairs.
I'm not sure exactly what I'm asking, and I think the exact.
But I think it was like 3 years this guy was on deferral and he made it back. There's a few. And as I was telling Jesse, those are definitely time to have a little victory dance. But yeah, you have to maintain qualification while they're on the waiting list. Once they get into production, you're good. But like I said, as you're reporting out, do the most current heat certificate, please.
Questions on that one? All right, the other, let's see. I want to remember what order I wanted to talk about this in. The other one there's a couple of things on the Rocky Mountain Power rebates, and because of we don't have the ability to make any changes to our BWR form. So we need some information on the BWR, but we don't have a separate field for it. So you have to remember to put a few things in the comment box. So I just wanted to remind everybody what those things need to be. And I have noticed there's been a few agencies that they put some of these comments in the comment box, but they put it in the comment box on the RMP addendum. And that works, it's okay, but a better practice or a best practice would be to put it on the comment box on the BWR, and to do that on every BWR, whether they're an RMP customer or not. If you just get yourself in the habit of, I'm going to report on every house, whether this house has an air conditioner, then you'll never forget it. So that's why it would be a best practice. But if you are applying for the rebates, you need to document whether that home has an air conditioner. We would like to see you report it on every house, because we're looking to say, did this agency forget to apply for the rebates as well? So if you could put it in the comment box on the BWR and be very consistent about it, that would really help us as we're trying to double check that. But yeah, so this note says to document whether a house is eligible for RMP rebates, comments must state whether the dwelling is electrically cooled. So we just need to know, does it have an air conditioner, whether that's a swamp cooler or a bunch of window ACs or central air. And if you'll document that in the comment box on every house, that helps. So if the house has no air conditioner, just document this house has no air conditioner. We also, so that ties into our rebates on some of the insulation and things like that. So to be eligible for the, where was it? This insulation rebate, attic insulation. We need to know if the home was electrically cooled. That's the first part of that rebate. The second part of that rebate.
More than 80%, so window units don't count.
Oh, yeah, so it needs to be more than 80% of the total square footage needs to be. If there were 5 or 6 window units and it was covering the whole thing, you don't want to report it that way. So really just stick with evaporative coolers and central air.
Yeah, central.
Thanks for that. The other thing I wanted to point out is to be eligible for the RMP rebate using the existing attic insulation must have been less than an R30, and the home must be electrically cooled. I've noticed that on a lot of the BWRs, the existing insulation is reported exactly at an R30, and that means that it is not eligible for the rebate. So I wanted to ask everybody to just check yourselves and think about how accurate you are recording. So auditors, how accurately are you recording the existing R value? And do not mistake me here. I don't want you fudging the numbers, but if you get up in an attic and you measure that attic and it's an R28, please document that it's an R28. Don't round up to an R30, because that could actually make us ineligible for a rebate that the house really is eligible for. And if it is an R30, which it should be common that it's an R30, because that was a common depth for builders to put into homes, and that's okay. But if it's an R30, document that it's an R30. Just be aware, if you're not being very accurate, we might be missing out on some rebates. So, questions on that one, or comments? The other thing on the rebates is that we can qualify for a crisis cooling rebate, but in order to do that, you're replacing an air conditioner under the crisis program, and the air conditioner that you replace, it must be a higher SEER than the air conditioning that was there. So that has to be documented in the comment section. And so in the comment section, if you're applying for that rebate, please list that, you know, the old SEER rating was a 14, the new SEER rating is a 17. That's the information we need to know to validate that we are eligible for that rebate. And we have told RMP that at the state level, we are keeping these records. So that's why we need you to put this on the BWR. The other thing with that is the flip side of that. If you have a situation where, yes, you did replace the AC, but it was a 17 SEER and you replaced it with 17 SEER, please document that. Otherwise, you'll get a phone call or an email from us saying, hey, did this one qualify for that rebate? Did you forget to apply for it? So again, as a best practice, if you'll get yourselves in the habit of just every time you replace an AC, keep track of the SEER rating and report it in the comments section on the BWR, that will help. That'll help you guys, and it'll help us as we're trying to double check some of those things. Questions, comments on that one? The other thing I want to point out is we've noticed a handful just where the completion date's being left off.
Cover evaporative.
Oh, go ahead.
So on the cooling crisis, again, the commitment we made to Rocky Mountain Power was increased efficiency. So on those homes where you're doing evaporative and you're replacing the evaporative cooler, the same rule applies. So you're going to need to, instead of giving us SEER ratings, because the last time I checked, AC or evaporative coolers still don't have those, you need to let us know that you went with the higher efficiency model. And those would be those evaporative coolers that are using the thicker 2-inch pad and have an EC motor versus a PSC motor. The thicker pad gives you a higher saturation content of moisture in the airflow, which then gives you a greater evaporative effect as it dries out and cools. And likewise, the EC motor, as we know, will draw less wattage than a PSC motor. So again, about the only one I know that has done that at all is Utah Community Action, and they've been doing a good job of putting that information in there. But for those of you who aren't taking advantage of evaporative cooling, if you're making the replacement, look at buying something that's better than the old spruce pad crappy thing you're ripping off the roof, and put something that's a little bit better up there, and you can claim that as well too.
Thank you for that.
You may
Questions
not
on
know
that?
what I'm talking about. Speak up now, please.
All right, the other thing was just, I put this little yellow dot here to remind me the completion dates. We've seen some of those missing. And the note on that is this is not the date of the QCI, it is the date of the file closeout. That's what that's supposed to be. And then the other data that I've seen missing a little bit is the thermostat serial number. On the homes where you are putting a Nest thermostat into them, we need to know what the serial number is. The reason we need to know is that the arrangement we have with Nest is that they can provide us data about all of these Nest thermostats that we are installing. That data is going to come to us without any client names on them. It'll only have this serial number on it. That will be our only opportunity to align that data with what we did in the house. So for those of you who are out in the field and you're installing these thermostats, when you're documenting what you've done on your work orders, it's extremely important that you put the serial number on there and that you put it down accurately. If you are transcribing that, please make sure that you're doing that clearly. A best practice would be to include a photo of that number so that you are not transcribing it, so that we don't mess up the number. But whatever your systems are within your agencies, make sure that you're getting the numbers on the BWRs and that they're accurate. Because if we go to all the trouble and we miss it by one digit, then we don't get the data that we're after. But anyway, main thing is on our end, we've just seen a few of them missing. We really have no way of checking to see if we got the numbers right, at least not at this point. But watch that, please. Any questions or concerns or comments there? All right, and those are just on the Nest thermostats. If you're putting other thermostats on there, those numbers won't be of any value to us. So.
Question: have you guys been having a good results back from those thermostats?
We
Anything on
haven't pulled them for any data because we don't have the ability right now. Well, I would say ability. We don't have the capacity or anybody to do a study for us. With the stimulus money that's in the infrastructure bill, I fully expect to design a program effectiveness study, and that will be some of the data that would be accessed in is to reach out to Google and have them provide us that data along with usage data from the utilities and so on down the line. It'll be something we will contract out to a third party, probably somebody like the U or Utah State or something like that. We'll work with, there's been some people I've talked to in both universities that would be willing and interested in doing something like that. We can come up with some money to fund it and design it and everything. So since we'll have a nice little pile of money we can do stuff like that with, that's kind of the intentions.
Yeah. Any other questions there? I also just wanted to thank you guys for your patience with us on the BWRs. We all wish this was better. We've got a long bureaucratic road to hoe before we can fix it, but I want to let you know Brad he has been working very hard on trying to fix it. We plan to fix it, but it will be a while. So thank you for.
We just keep getting shuffled back in the queue. There's aspirations of building a reporting system. The platform Web Grants 1 that the BWR is on it's dead technology. It's not being maintained, and it's going away. And it's getting to the point now where they're actually wanting it to go away. They being the technology side of the state, and they keep running into me and how loud I get when they start talking about turning it off and the challenge they're faced with right now. So some of your agencies are involved with rental assistance and mortgage assistance, all these other programs that have crept up during the pandemic, and they've all been prioritized for build outs and things like that. And so we just keep getting shuffled back. I mean, at the end of the day, like it or not, we're pretty small compared to some of the other programs in the department. And so that means when they're prioritizing, they look at impact, which means size matters in this case. But we have a fairly decent design. I've had a few meetings with them to walk them through what it is we want. But at the end of the day, the ultimate goal will be that it will be an entirely electronic client file that will reside on state secured servers that are redundantly backed up in multiple locations. And yeah, so they kind of choked when I told them about how much document per client was going to show up on their server, but they calmed down a little bit when I told them that we'd be on a 3-year purge cycle. So that yeah, they were starting to try to calculate the terabytes of data they would need or space to store all the data. When I told them that the average client file was over 160 pages.
Anyway, thank you for your patience on that. Thank you for all you guys are doing to keep the BWRs as accurate as possible. We make decisions based off of that data, so please do all that you can to give us accurate data. Next thing is I want to talk about the LMS. And to start talking about that, I need some feedback from you guys. So Wade was really in charge of this. Dalton and I have been spending every spare minute trying to bring ourselves up to speed on the LMS and what we can do to help you guys there. What problems are you guys having with the LMS? What struggles are you guys having with it?
This morning we were trying to upload some badges for one of my guys. We can't find the link anymore. We did it a couple days ago with one, got a bunch uploaded, but then we went to go do another and the link wasn't, I don't know, in the same place, or we just forgot where it is or what, but we just can't find it.
For the LMS or for the upload?
For the badges.
For the upload for the badges.
That's Turner's fault.
I messed with that. I'll show you that in just a minute.
Okay.
Because the domain did expire briefly for like 48 hours because the old credit card on file had expired and stuff. But I did get the
you're
domain.
wondering if it was
And the domain name was renewed. So when you said link missing or not working, I was like, wait a minute, I just paid that, damn it. You should be good for another 2 years.
What else? What other pain points do you guys have with it?
I've got random stuff from guys that they said they've done, they've talked with Wade about, and we can't. I mean, I understand. There's not a lot we can do, but it's just randomly gone.
Wes is nodding his head. I worked with him a little bit last week. If you have had issues where you have completed a module, but it's not marking it as complete, you're not alone. Many people have had that problem. I've reached out to Saturn. I think we have some ideas on how we can fix that, but I have to work with Saturn, which is the company that provided a lot of those training modules to us. So hopefully we can get in touch with them in the near future and get some of that worked out. I did some research last week, and what I found made a lot of sense to me. It kind of seems to line up with what we're experiencing. And what it is that basically it said if you have any internet connectivity issues while you are taking any of those modules, then it can cause some of those problems. And what that means is those modules are set up to where they're tracking every time you like go to the next slide. And when you go to the next slide, it passes that information to the LMS and says, hey, this student just viewed slide number 5. And then it goes to, when you go to the next slide, it says the student just viewed slide number 6. Well, if you go to slide number 7 and you have a connectivity issue, it doesn't pass the information that this student just did slide number 7. then you go on to slide 8. So now it's told the LMS that you did slide 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, and you got 10 out of 10 on the quiz, but you didn't complete the module. And unfortunately, the only way to do it or to fix it is that I have to go in and delete all of your efforts and you have to do them again. So I'm working on trying to figure out a way to work around that and fix that. For the most part, most of those modules don't have quizzes in them. And so if you're running into roadblocks on any of those, send me an email or a text and include the name of the module that you're not getting credit for. I will delete all of your efforts. You will have to go back in and redo it. A lot of the modules you can just click through the slides quickly, and as long as you get to the end and exit out, it should give you full credit. I apologize for those that if they have a quiz at the end and you have to retake the quiz. I don't have any other solution for that yet, but my hope is we'll work with Saturn. I think I'm going to ask them to pull quizzes. We're going to pull the quizzes out of the modules, and we're going to change the way that we're going to change it so that we don't record the modules. We'll only record the quizzes is kind of what I'm thinking. But is that the biggest issue you guys are dealing with, or is there other issues going on?
Is there a timeline on the modules? Like say you, like.
Really time out?
Yeah, well, time out. Like if I was working on my energy auditor, I done 3 or 4 modules, and then I go back 6 months later, and you know they weren't checked off, so I had to restart all over.
So for like the whole thing, I don't think there is a way for us to set that if we want to, but I don't think we've set that in there because I don't want to deal with the headache of that either. I'll double check that and make sure that it's not set that way.
6 months later, I found time to do it.
When you started
I had to redo it.
and did that, that's when the system.
Yeah, we changed.
That's when they upgraded. That's when they upgraded the system on us, and that's probably what did it to you.
I mean, it was a good refresher, but
That's probably what happened to you.
Yeah.
They did a massive upgrade. When was that?
I don't
It was
remember.
BC before crash.
Mhm.
I know that much.
So let me answer Jesse Waite's question about the badges. And kudos to those of you. We have had a handful of you guys who have actually finished your badges and you've been uploading those. And of course, as you started to do that, we saw the flaw in our system and I had to hurry and fix it. So if you have started uploading badges and you've recently gotten on there and now it's not there anymore, it's because I hid it, because we don't want you to upload your badges where you were uploading them. There's 2 or 3 of you that uploaded all of your badges, and one of you, Tim, I don't know if you're on or not, I sent you an email last week, but I uploaded a copy of all of your badges, but I think you still have to go in and submit them. Basically, the couple of you who have uploaded badges, I was trying to move the stuff so that you didn't have to do any work, but you might have to do a little bit to help me make this switch. But what I did was I set it up to where there is now just a separate module or course. That's course is probably the more correct term. There's a separate course just for badges, and you can self-enroll on that course. So if you go into if you log in, it should show you a dashboard that looks similar to this. And if the badges course, sorry, I'm going to say the wrong thing. The badges course is not showing up. If you'll just scroll down and click on weatherization, then you'll be able to find the badges course and you can self-enroll. And then you can report all your badges there. You used to have to do them under the retrofit installer, but I'm going to separate that out. The retrofit installer, that will just be the LMS modules, the training that you'll do online. We want to keep the RIT badges completely separate. And here's why. Also on your dashboard, I've added this little graphic that shows you your progress. And so I've noticed a lot of you guys which this makes perfect sense to me. You're doing all your badges on paper in your offices, and then when all 25 or 26 of them are done, you take the time to upload all of them, and that's fine. That's totally fine with me. But if you want, for those of you who do want to use the LMS to help you keep track of stuff, if you want to upload one badge at a time, then there's this graphic here that will actually show you which badges are done and which are not done. So we've done that, but also it helps, the way that we've separated this out allows us to use this graphic. It also, we've set it up to where when you do upload stuff, it's not going to be doing anything on our end. Basically, as soon as you guys start uploading stuff, we start getting lots of emails to go correct or grade your assignments. And I've set this up to where we will not get that email to grade your assignment until all 25 or 26 are uploaded and done. So basically, this gives you guys one way of keeping track of which badges are completed. It'll also, I don't know that anybody will, if this will be important to you or not, but it'll give you a little graphic and show you an image of all the badges you've earned up there. If that's helpful in any way, I don't know. But I've set it up that way. But also just know when you are setting these up or submitting these, Dalton and I may be doing some spot checks from time to time, but you cannot count on that. If you have any question about whether you're doing this correctly, you need to reach out directly to us, because we will not check your homework until all 25 of them are uploaded. Then we'll go in and grade them. If they're all there and everything's in order, once we grade them, it'll actually send you a certificate saying you've completed all your badges. But that's what I did with the badges. Is that any questions on that?
Yeah, so where they now have to self-enroll into the, the course, do they, we need to rename them all still with our names in front of the badge name?
Oh, when you guys upload stuff, do you have to rename them?
Yeah, because before where we had to put our names in front of the badge name, now where we're enrolling in this course and those badges are uploaded into a course they're enrolled in, or a module, say, do they still have to go through and rename every badge?
You do not need to add your name to the file name of the badge. No.
Just have the badge name would be sufficient.
Yeah, because it's putting it in a separate pile for Mark Romney. I'll be able to go look at everything in his pile and know that that's just his stuff. So that's a great question. And the self-enroll, I hope, basically, if you're trying to do this right away, you'll have to self-enroll. In the next week or two, I hope to get back in here and then manually enroll everybody that should be listed in there. But just know going forward, I'm trying to set up every one of these courses to where you guys, that we're never the roadblock. If you have somebody on your team that needs any of these courses, we want you to be able to jump in and self-enroll whenever you need them. But I will try to get everybody who should be listed already enrolled, so it'll show up on your dashboard. So what other questions have you guys got?
We're gonna have like a nice ceremony when everybody's completed and they get all their like fancy Boy Scouts of America looking satchel thing with all the badges on it.
Yep, we'll get a T-shirt and we'll cut out a bunch of pieces and staple it to it for you.
I think that would be awesome.
Jack, we're giving yours to Jesse anyway, so does
Asshole. No, I mean, what?
Maybe we might put some thought into doing something once you earn your certificate, but I don't know that it'll actually be any badges or anything. I don't know. So, what other question? Any other thoughts or concerns about LMS issues that while we're talking about it? Or
Matt?
The badges? Yes.
Tim did log in this morning and look at that, and so his were all yellow, but once he went in and clicked edit and save, then it submitted them and turned them green. So he'll work on getting them all turned green.
Cool. And my apologies, but yeah, there's 2 or 3 of you. Thank you so much for being the first ones to actually get all your stuff done, and I'm sorry I'm making it harder for you. I'll reach out to the couple of you that have done that. No, he's not. We'll make sure and get it recorded so that the system will be a little smoother. So I had 2 other things. We are out of time, but both of these things, let me just talk to them briefly, and then if you have comments, send them my way. The first one was, I've noticed a couple of things on some lead reports that just caused me to ask the question, do you guys have any XRF training needs? we have really been hands off with that because each agency has purchased whatever XRF equipment they want. And so we have never provided any training, but take a minute and think about within your agency, did the manufacturer provide you good enough training? If they did not, will you send me an email and just let me know what equipment you have and kind of what gaps you'd like filled? And I'm just wondering if it's something you may have to just address it yourself, but if it's something programmatic, that we could help facilitate, we might look into doing something like that. Anybody have any quick comments or questions on that one?
I am offering free sterilizations with RxRF this weekend if anybody needs it.
Who doesn't have a Niton?
Silence. All right.
Yeah, I think everybody's got the exact same thing.
Yeah.
They're all using the
Just
Niton.
give me a gauge on if you feel like you know the equipment well and you're very comfortable with it. But if you don't and you don't feel like you have good training, let me know. So, and then the last thing was I've had a handful of questions as we've been out monitoring just about the Nest thermostats. And so when I sent out the email with today, we put together, it was emails before, we put together an FAQ on the Nest thermostats 2 years ago. I just put all those questions into a document. I'm just going to include them. So I just encourage you to take a minute. If you've had questions about the Nest thermostat, read through the FAQ. It will probably answer most of your questions. And if you have more, then you're welcome to respond to that email and send me any other questions you have. So, all right. Anything else before we end? Well, thank you guys for joining us today. It's good to get together. And thank you for all your comments. Hope you guys are all healthy and well and have an enjoyable holiday season.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.
Yep.
Thank you.
Get my mouse.